All the factions of the world have their own champions. Mighty heroes whose feats are legendary and whose deeds will echo through eternity. While many may be noble and bold, others may be terrifying and despicable. And there are none who are more horrifying in deed and aspect than the champions of chaos. It is known that chaos worshippers, Norscan raiders, beastmen, and other unnameable creatures are forever searching to please the chaos gods, seeking to draw their gaze upon them, to be able to receive the unlimited and powerful rewards that the ruinous powers always have to offer to the ones they deem worthy. Chaos is known for its uncanny ability to warp and distort the flesh of its worshippers, while empowering them to great heights, so that they might perform even greater feats in the name of the ruinous powers they serve. Indeed, very few of the champions of chaos are as terrible as the demon prince Azazel, who serves Slaanesh, Festus, the leech lord, who serves Nurgle, Vilitch, the curseling, who serves Sinch, and Valkia, the bloody, who serves Gore. Their names are feared across all realms, and today we will explore more about these characters and how they made it into the annals of history. Before we begin exploring more about the champions of chaos, we'd like to thank today's video sponsor, BLOODLINE, Heroes of Lithus, a strategic card-based RPG where you can not only build kingdoms and manage its economy, but also create half-blood heirs of your houses by merging the powers of various bloodlines, such as orcs, elves, lycans, and demons. You can download the game now using the link in the description below, or scan the QR code shown on screen. With many strategic options, you can recruit a variety of legendary champions to pass on your powers and raise heirs with true companions from a vast fantasy world. Taste the mighty power of Fulgur, the demigods. BLOODLINE, Heroes of Lithus, is free to play for both Android and iOS. Download the game now using the link below, or scan the QR code shown on the screen. Use our link to get the Karg Dragonborn clan and the Hybrid Heir for free.
Come, take my hand. There is no wish of yours I cannot grant. No desire I cannot fulfill. Forget your gods, your family, your loved ones. What can they offer you? I can give you more than you have ever dreamed of. I have such things to show you, such pleasures for you to taste. There is no love greater than mine. Come now, join me. It is such an easy step, such a short climb. Yes, that's it. Come to me, my champion. Stay forever.
Azazel was born a mortal man, under the name Geryon of the Umberrigan tribe, alongside his twin, Trinovantes, and his elder sister, Ravenna. When still young, Geryon's mother was told a chilling prophecy. Only one of her sons would know the greatest extremes of pleasures and the most enticing extremes of pain. As the boys grew to manhood, they would eventually find themselves in the retinue of mighty Sigmar himself, fighting alongside him. But this glory was not meant to last. It happened that in a deadly battle against the Greenskins, Trinovantes was slain. Geryon was lost in his grief over the loss of his brother, and he blamed Sigmar for his death. It was then that the tormented Geryon swore his vengeance against the king. As time passed after the incident, Geryon himself grew so close to Sigmar that he began to feel conflicted, recognizing the inherent nobility of Sigmar and his brethren, and he began to doubt his own oath to seek revenge. But 6 years later, the time had finally arrived for Geryon to at last strike Sigmar and attempt to take revenge. And struck he did. With a poisoned blade, Geryon wounded Sigmar, but in the confusion and chaos of the situation, he also mistakenly slew his own sister, Ravenna, who was betrothed to the king. Plagued by guilt for his actions, Geryon fled to the north as a fugitive, having left Sigmar hovering on the very brink of death. While in his self-imposed exile in the far north, he found sanctuary with the Norsei, a tribe whose numbers had been nigh on annihilated during battle with none other than Sigmar Heldenhammer and his men. Among their survivors was a powerful sorcerer who had foretold the coming of one who would be a great champion of chaos, and so bestowed upon Geryon a new name, the name that would one day drive fear and trepidation into the hearts of those who hear it. Azazel. Azazel would devote himself to the Prince of Chaos, Slaanesh. With his newfound powers and dark motivations, he slew many enemies from all races. One of the most remarkable was the slaying of Arthur, the exalted champion of Khorne, who Azazel killed in single combat. Pleased with his might and devotion to the arts of excess, Slaanesh in return elevated Azazel to demonhood as his demon prince, and made him the commander of one of the Slaaneshi demonic armies, the Ecstatic Legion. Blessed by Slaanesh, Azazel is second in beauty only to the gods themselves. He boasts great polished horns that curve out from his brow, and beautiful, pure white wings. In his right hand he carries an enchanted demonic blade that writhes as if alive. It is a sword that no armor can ever hope to deflect. The beast has a sickening beauty that can drive any man or woman mad. In fact, there are a few legends and tales that make up this argument. One of the most famous being when a questing knight called Guido de Brion went on a mission to kill Azazel, only to kneel before the beauty and splendor of the demon. His head was separated from his shoulders in one quick slice, and the questing knight didn't even try to move or defend himself. In his mind, the act was truly justifiable, for how could he resist against that excessive beauty? It is said, too, in hushed whispers, that the beast can see the deepest desires and hidden pleasures of all mortals, and look into the most private corners of their hearts. As such, the terrible and varied temptations that the demon whispers are nearly irresistible. Now, Azazel wanders the battlefields of the old world, slaughtering with reckless abandon on wings of pure alabaster. One champion of chaos, who has seemingly fallen further than most, is a doctor. Festus, the Leech Lord, once a skilled chirurgeon, who founded hospices across the province of Nordland. With his abilities, he cured hundreds of wounded and sick men and women with his many recipes for curative solutions, salves, and unique unguents. He was as compassionate as he was gifted, and his reputation preceded him amongst renowned physicians, alchemists, and scientists across the length and breadth of the old world. But fate played a cruel hand to this once noble man. His downfall came when he was finally faced with the disease his famed potions, concoctions, and unguents could not cure. This new contagion, dubbed the gnashing fever, spread with tremendous speed and left stacks of bodies in its wake. In desperation, the doctor retreated and locked himself in his fully equipped laboratory, where, despite his greatest efforts, he watched patient after patient shake out their last breaths and die painfully before his eyes. Finally, when the last of his patients had perished, he fell to his knees and cried out for help from any that might give it. In that dark room, heavy with the stench of death and disease, those same slack-jawed corpses each turned their dead gaze to Festus, and with one voice offered him the ability to cure any and all diseases. In exchange for a lifetime of servitude, the plague god would bestow Festus with the knowledge necessary to cure not only this brutal gnashing fever, but all diseases that ever could and would ever be. It is important to note that many humans do not seek to initially please the dark gods actively. There are many reasons a human soul might turn to the worship of chaos. Some of them seek a release from their lives of slavery, endless toil, or hopelessness. Many others, however, desire power or influence, whether to provide for those who depend upon them, or to reach their own ambitions. It is a slippery ladder, crowned with morally compromising choices that oftentimes begin as seemingly justified, or even a noble cause. But quickly, it turns into full heresy, and by then, it is far too late to step back. In the case of Dr. Festus, his choice was made out of pure desperation and the seemingly simple and noble wish to cure his patients. Thinking only of the good work he might do and how many lives he might save in the future, Festus agreed to the offered pact, and his mind was instantaneously flooded with knowledge that none but the great god Nurgle could impart. Every disease was revealed to him in an instant that truly felt like an eternity. Every cure was put at his disposal, every concoction suddenly made known to him. The knowledge of all the sickness, suffering, rebirth, and death was suddenly his. It was absolutely overwhelming. And in that moment, Festus became the Leech Lord of Nurgle, an exalted champion of Nurgle, who goes to war in the name of furthering his revolting studies. This new understanding drove every shred of his once renowned compassion from him, and left Festus utterly insane. This madness was swiftly put to use in service of Grandfather Nurgle, as Festus then founded the Tnean Fellowship, an imperial society of physicians, which in truth sought to corrupt yet even more practitioners of the noble arts of healing into falling under the sway of Grandfather Nurgle. Before retreating to the northern wastes, Festus even used his new knowledge to devastating effect when the son of Aldebron Ludenhoff, the Elector Count of Hochland, fell ill. Disguised as a cloaked physician, the gardener of Nurgle instructed the young man to drink a mysterious potion should the symptoms of his rare illness return. And in time, the symptoms did indeed return. But when the young man drank the elixir given to him, rather than being cured, the man turned into a great, slobbering, mutated beast that slaughtered a score of the Elector Count's closest advisors before running north to obey the whims of its new master. Now Festus plagues the world, spreading Nurgle's gifts among any and all who he crosses paths with. This champion of chaos is a walking repository of alembics and foul-smelling potions. To the ones blessed by Grandfather Nurgle, these elixirs are restorative brews, but to others, they are deadly poisons that only hurt and corrupt the body, and even the soul. Not all of the champions of chaos have descended from such noble roots. Indeed, some have their beginnings in very dire circumstances, forcing one to wonder if some of the servants of chaos had any choice in their own fate. Or perhaps they were controlled the entire time. Vilitch the curseling had his start in similar circumstances. He and his twin brother, Thoman, were hard-born, pushing their mother to the breaking point, and inevitably killing her as they fed greedily at her breast. The twins could not be more different, even from birth. Thoman was a strong, robust, and strapping boy, while his misbegotten twin was small, sickly, and runtish. These differences only grew more and more noticeable as time passed. Thoman grew stronger, greater, and more handsome, taking to the way of the warrior with little effort, while Vilitch struggled under the tutelage of the tribe's shaman, and soon grew to be despised, not only for his acts and mannerisms, but because he was ugly and frail, things far too intolerable for the hardy men of the tribe. It was during this time that Thoman began to beat his lesser twin for even the smallest perceived infraction. Vilitch's father never intervened on his weaker son's behalf. This cruelty and mistreatment mingled together with his already despicable personality, and it inevitably led Vilitch to nurture and develop his resentment and hatred, until finally he started praying every night that his role might be reversed, and that it might be he who was the stronger twin, the one who could punish, the one who could dominate, and rule over those he deserved to be above. Tzeentch, the god of change, in his infinite wisdom, is also the god who delights in anarchy. Eventually, he agreed to Vilitch's selfish request. It was time for a change. One night, when the dark moon Morsley was full in the night sky, with the darkness drawing in the chaos moon passing close to the world, the dark god Tzeentch, master of misrule and treachery, took heed of the wretch's prayers and gave him the power he sought with his usual petulant twist. What emerged from Vilitch and Thoman's tent, glowing with baleful magic light, would be the being from henceforth known as the Twisted Twin. Tzeentch had fused the forms of the Twisted Vilitch and the mighty Thoman together, bestowing magical power in Vilitch that dwarfed any of his opponents 100 times. Thoman, as requested, became the subservient twin, his mind dulled, slowed, and quiet, but not erased. His body was no longer under his own control, but full of strength out of this world and now under Vilitch's command. Instantly, the new twisted being used his new foul powers and stolen strength to slaughter countless members of his own tribe. The horrifyingly powerful hands of foemen throttled the life from any who attempted to stop the great arcing bolts of magic that reduced Vilitch's victims to little more than pools of liquefied flesh. All who had looked down upon Vilitch felt the dire consequences of their actions. In time, Vilitch, also known as the Curseling, hunted down all the elite warriors of his tribe, and with his new diabolical magical powers, he enslaved their minds and held them all enthralled to his own whim in a great army. The foul Vilitch now battles against every foe he can find in service to his master, the great anarchistic Tzeentch. Queen of Gore, demigod of war, Valkia is the bride to Khorne himself. Many centuries before the rise of Sigmar, when men were still not much more than prey, she led a tribe of bloodthirsty Norskins into conflict against any who did not worship the blood god. But before all of that, she was Lilven, meaning little friend in her Norscan tongue, dubbed that by her warrior father, Merrick. By the age of 10, she had already fought as a shield maiden and had participated in a successful first battle.
They say that when the Axe-Father is pleased with our efforts, the tides of the sky will flow and ebb with tides of the darkest red, leached from the blood of our enemies. On the day that happens, Lilven, our people, will rise far above all others.
When she became of age, her tribe had begun to be stricken by the misfortunes of fate, and her father grew sick with plague. Another tribe, farmers and fishermen all, had been maimed by their rivals and requested aid and shelter from Merrick, and he abided. Physically weak from the touch of Nurgle, this action of mercy cemented the chieftain as weak in the minds and hearts of his fellow tribesmen, especially Valkia, his own daughter, who grew resentful towards the weak attitude shown by her father. Valkia had taken upon her only true mortal lover, Radek, a powerful and mighty warrior, and it was Radek who ultimately struck down her weakling father. In a sudden turn of events, Valkia killed Radek too, declaring him a traitor and becoming herself the head of the tribe. She led the tribe in daring raids, eliminated anyone who opposed her, gaining the favor of Khorne above all others. Valkia was a ruthless killing machine. The tribe grew, and alliances with fellow marauders were formed. In the coming winters, the ill, elderly, and weak all perished under the oppressive and unforgiving cold of the north. These were all acceptable losses, according to Valkia. for her mighty warriors were supposed to be able to endure the droughts of weather. Of course, being a chieftain also encompassed politics, and as time passed, she grew more and more tired of it. Eventually, she was forced by tradition to marry a fellow chieftain, Darren, and she bore him 2 daughters, Eris and Bellona. Valkia eventually gutted her husband Darren in a bloody ritual not too long after their offspring were born. Losifax, a demon prince of Slaanesh, bore the humble visage of a hooved man in purple robes when he visited Valkia. Stricken by her unnatural beauty, he demanded that Valkia kneel before him as his slave girl, so that she would no longer want for anything, and her nights would forever be spent in extreme ecstasy.
You could concede defeat to me now, girl. Admit that I am your better, and take your place at my side. Your days will be filled with all you desire, and your nights will be spent in pleasurable ecstasy. I'm offering you so much more than the snows of the north and the ingratitude of these barbarous people. If you come with me now, you will be a true queen.
Her rage within was indeed mighty, but she contained herself, and in an act of contained hatred, she challenged the demon to a duel. Prideful and confident, the demon accepted, thinking that she would never best him. For an entire day and night, the two fought. Valkia had relinquished her crimson armor, for she had no need of it. She allowed her hatred to seep through, and the rage carried her into frenzied battle, never tiring. With a thundering spear thrust, she decapitated the demon. His head, still whispering things, was affixed to a shield, and Valkia swore to her tribe that she would deliver this vile skull to Khorne's throne in person. A bold claim, but she followed through. She marched, like the queen she was, into hell itself. There, the demonic hosts of Slaanesh assaulted her, attempting to avenge the loss of their demon prince. And one by one, with time, her followers were cut down, until eventually only she remained. Every spear thrust was a demon banished. Every shield bash was a skull split. But it was not enough. She was eventually cut down, ripped apart by many a depraved form of life. And there laid Valkia, bloody and torn apart. With a rumble, the mountains shook. The heavens were inked with the color of blood, and the very core of the earth cried crimson roars. For Khorne had noticed her monumental efforts, and from death did she return, now made into the Gore Queen, Valkia the Bloody, bride of the Blood God. with the singularly important task of bringing to his brass halls all of those who died in worthy and bloody combat. Her first act as a demon princess was to return to her old tribe, to sever her few remaining mortal ties. There she met her daughters and stepbrother, who, alongside her tribe, had not only survived, but thrived. With a shy smile, the Gore Queen descended upon the marauders with her own demonic band of followers, slaughtering them all. The myths of Norska foretold the coming of the Gore Queen. She aided the Norskins in the burning of Nordland, performed bloody rituals alongside raiders against the dwarves of Karak Gulg, and has claimed more skulls than can be counted. These are the champions of chaos, true abominations, twisted by their patron gods to do their bidding. They now consume the world of the living, and their thirst for souls is at its peak. Who can possibly stand against them?
On this channel, we are putting together narrative Total War cinematic battles and Warhammer lore videos. A special thank you goes to our Patreon supporters who help us in the making of more content. You can also join Patreon and earn extra perks while supporting the videos to come. Find the link in the description below. Make sure to subscribe, and thank you for watching. See you on the next one.